Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 7th instalment of the webinar series. Today, we're hosting Understanding the Demand of Charities during COVID-19, and it's a really important question, something that really distinguishes Geelong, certainly in my experience, is that how connected we are to our community, how we're all involved in some way or another to building our community and helping out wherever we can. And there's no time more important than now, I think, during this crisis for us to understand how we can help and what's going on out there. I'd like to say first up that, as always at the Chamber of Commerce, we like to thank our corporate partners for all of their support in allowing us to do these kind of events, especially our platinum partner, SC Technology. Thank you to those. Today, I welcome Helen Cox from the Geelong Animal Welfare Society, or GAWS. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you.
Zoe Waters from the Barwon Health Foundation. Welcome, Zoe.
Thanks, Ben, for having me.
And I must say, Executive Director, pardon me, and CEO Sue Cattermole from the St Vincent de Paul Society of Victoria, colloquially known to Australians as Vinnies. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And Councillor Pat Murnane from Geelong Connected Communities. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Ben, and hello, everyone.
So we've got about 130 people registered for today's event, which again is amazing support from all of our participants. And I welcome you all today. Helen, you've been in the job for a year at GAWS. How are you finding it?
Years. No, it's been absolutely fabulous. I'm very passionate about animal welfare, not just in terms of rehoming and getting animals into homes, but from an urban design perspective, making sure that communities are designed appropriately. And it's an industry I absolutely love being in. It's got its challenges, but it's got some great rewards as well.
And the animals, they're not missing out during this crisis? They're well looked after?
Absolutely. I know we have a very, very dedicated and passionate team of staff and volunteers. And yeah, absolutely. First and foremost in everyone's mind is animal welfare and the best outcome for each animal.
Fantastic. Now, Zoe, the Barwon Health Foundation, you have a very important job there. And how have you been affected recently?
Let's say roller coaster. The last 8 or so weeks has certainly been a roller coaster. We've gone from what felt to some like a battle zone or waiting for the world to implode almost. Now we're at a stage where we're learning to live with COVID and really reminding people not to be complacent. Things can change. We've seen over the last couple of days that things can change really quickly. So we're really passionate about investing into Barwon Health to prepare for whatever the world will see over the next little while.
Now, Sue, at Vinnies, I suspect that demand for your services is growing.
It's an interesting time at the moment. So I think it's a roller coaster for most people. We're certainly continuing to support a lot of people in the community. And it probably over the last 2-3 weeks, we're now starting to see a whole group of new people coming to us. Ones that actually don't have any current source of income. They may be waiting for government support or they may not be eligible for government support, and they're really needing the basics, you know, the food, assistance with their rent. So you can start to feel the momentum of this population of people that we've never met before. And on top of that, of course, we've got our regulars who get support, but the government has enhanced a number of the payments. So we're trying to make sure people are claiming the right things as well. So to balance our budgets as best as they can. So it's a very interesting time, but yeah, we are busy.
And Pat, that probably relates to Geelong. Bringing it back to Geelong, how are you finding the demand for services from charities in Geelong?
That's probably been the area that we've been the most busiest in, Ben. As you know, we work across the total community, and generally we're very busy in sporting clubs and events and those sorts of youth programs and the like. They've been a bit quiet in the last few months, whereas the social sector, in food relief and dealing with isolation and those sort of matters, we've had a lot of inquiry and we've tried to help with a number of grants in those areas. So a bit too speed, you know.
Yeah. And I suppose, look, how are you going to be affected and your charities during the year? Like any business, you know, we're still waiting to find out, but I suspect large events are off the table for a while. You know, Zoe at Barwon Health Foundation, you guys are famous for large events such as your gala. How are you adapting to that?
I think pivoting and adapting and innovation is going to be our new tagline at the foundation. When this all started around the start of March, we had the discussion around perhaps the right thing for us to do might be to hibernate for the next little while the economy is going to be hit really hard and while health was going to be hit really hard. And then we really and rudely realised how much the health sector needs us right now, probably more so now than ever before. So within a 48-hour period, we almost turned from an events-based health charity to a philanthropy-based charity and really focusing on uniting the entire community together through different forms rather than mass gatherings. So we're using this time really to come back bigger and stronger. It's going to be a really tough time. We've got, 6 events on hold, potentially cancelled, potentially postponed. So we're using all the innovation we possibly can to make sure that when restrictions are lifted, that we've got fabulous events. We do have one in the works at the moment, which is going to be super duper cool, aligning and adhering to every social distancing health guideline that you can possibly imagine, but one that will see the health sector really shine. So I can't wait to fill you in on that.
And I'm presuming Dr. Bear's hung up his boots for the time being?
Dr. Bear is in isolation chubbiness at the moment. He's eaten every chocolate bar possible, but I can assure you he'll be back fitter than ever soon.
No, very good, very good. Now, Sue, it's an interesting point, philanthropy, and it's not something that we see publicised. And, the generosity of people is outstanding sometimes. Are we finding that philanthropists are more active at the moment?
We're certainly finding that our key supporters are very active. You're talking about large events, and I'm sure I'll touch on it, but the CEO Sleep Out this year, we weren't certain if we'd have cancelled the event or to hold it off. And we spoke to our chief sort of champions of the events and said, what do you think we should do? And that they overwhelmingly came back and said, you've got to do something. This is a time when you need to be doing something. So, I mean, it's interesting because I think that the philanthropists are looking at, what the needs are and saying, you've got to be active. And it's great because they came off the bushfires not so long ago where they were also very generous. So it's been a busy year for them in terms of having to look at where they can use their money. And, there must be so many areas that they could spend and investing in at the moment. But I think they are being very proactive. They are seeing the needs in the community and they want to be part of the solution.
Now, Pat, Geelong Connected Communities, you rely on the donations of businesses and philanthropists to then distribute more broadly. Are you suspecting that this year is going to be a difficult year?
That's on our mind, Ben. But the reality to date has everybody that's been. We've got about 40 partners throughout Geelong, and we spread our cash flow and our grants through the whole year. So there's money coming in every month and money going out every month. We haven't had anybody at this stage say they weren't prepared to continue because of because they weren't able to. I think there's been a little bit of prioritising in terms of businesses and philanthropy looking at some of the key matters, and when we've talked to them about some of the programs that have been important to us at the moment, they've stepped up and said, yeah, we really think there should be money invested in our community in those areas. But that's notwithstanding the fact that I'm sure there'll be businesses out there over the next 12 months that will find things a bit tighter, and we'll just continue to work with them. And if we've got a lot of our supporters who have been with us we're in our 7th year, and a lot of them have been there for those 7 years, and we won't hesitate to carry a supporter who isn't financially here to keep carrying them, so that they remain long-time supporters. So we'll be very flexible and very cooperative, whatever the needs of our supporters are.
So, Pat, Geelong Connected Communities looking to distribute similar amounts this year as previous years?
Yeah, we for the financial year to June, we'll do about 75 programs, which is probably down about 20%. What we have been doing is we've got a relationship with about 300 not-for-profits, and a lot of those applications that we've had discussions with them now. We've given in principle approvals, but we know that the timing of the project will have to be flexible. So initially they may have said, look, we're hoping to do this in September, but if we've got to do it in next March, will you still support it? And so it's a matter of us just keeping that relationship and that conversation alive, because one of the things that we want to do is be part of the recovery model and be putting things out there when the recovery's on. And so it's important from our perspective that we've got those sorts of activities happening.
Now, Sue, we've got a question from the audience, and it touches on the bushfires, and I think it's a good question. Do you feel charities? There's been some negative press around the bushfire relief money, and it's still being held. And I think it might even, forgive me, but it might even still be going through the courts on how they distribute it. But is that affecting charities' ability to raise money?
No, look, I don't think it is, but there has been a lot of scrutiny around the bushfires. An extraordinary amount of money was collected very quickly. And I think with that came an expectation of spending money really quickly. And certainly that's probably more difficult than one can imagine to do. I can just talk about the Vinnies experience. So we were giving out emergency grants for the first 6 weeks, and for pretty much anyone lived in that had been displaced. And we were giving those grants out. That was very successful, but I know in some parts of the country that was really hard to do because people actually weren't in those areas. And for us in Victoria, it really was around Mallacoota and Corryong, where the road was closed for a further 6 weeks. So the only assistance we could provide was on the phone. But since that point, pre-COVID, COVID's added another layer of complexity. We were actually having teams going in every week into those areas and supporting people face to face. And those were starting to give the recovery grants, the big dollars, out to those people. Obviously now COVID-19 inhibits the way that we do things, and we're back to being on the telephone. Which is not the ideal way, because people that have had significant trauma really need to spend time with them and go through and help them put an application together. But that's not possible. So COVID has added another complication, which I think will slow down again the money. And one of the things I think that is noticeable for me is I think the whole COVID thing has demonstrated a bit of digital divide. So when we can't get out to people, it's electronic applications, it's scanning documents. That is so hard for so many people to do. So that's becoming something more, I think, is an issue for people who don't have the internet and who are still displaced. Getting all of that information together is difficult, but we're certainly very active. We've got a call centre that operates, we take calls. I think there will be parts of the community that still are a little bit cynical, perhaps, about where the money goes. We were really upfront with the bushfires and said that we would take no money for administration, that we self-fund ourselves for all our activities and our administration. So I think some of those messages got there, but there is a bushfire commission now. They'll certainly be looking at how the charities operate. So I think that will help. But I think people's generosity was enormous, and with that is an expectation, and that perhaps charities weren't ready for. We shall see. But hopefully it doesn't, because charities like ours have been going for a very long time. We were in the bushfires 10 years ago. It took us 3 years to still keep supporting people after the bushfires, because trauma lasts an awful long time. So it's, you know, you don't want to spend all your money, because as you go down the track, people come forward that, you know, have started to build their lives. That's when they want to start to rebuild, and so it's quite a complex issue. And but I can understand expectations of the community as well, to get help out there as quick as possible. But you do need to target it. I know when our president went into Malakuta, one of the things that he said was there were so many chocolates there that people had donated, but that's not what people wanted. So I think you know, it's about listening to what people need. I think it's really important too.
Now, chocolates are no good for animals, Helen. We know this.
That's right.
We're all told not to let our dogs eat the chockies. But Sue touched on an interesting point, and that was how we're working digitally at the moment. Now, my wife is frantically trying to get a foster dog through GAWS. She's always on Facebook. Is that the main way that you guys support the animals, is digitally now?
Actually, we've had to completely review the way that we run our adoption service. So we obviously need to keep adoptions going because animals continue to come into us, so we can't have a block in that process. And we've, in the past, we've always had our adoption animals up on our website and available through Pet Rescue to have people to have a look at, and then they can come on site. And a lot of people have just walked on site to have a look. And to make a selection at the time. We actually stopped all of that, and we've gone completely to an appointment-based system. And it's taken a little bit of teething, you know, trying to do everything on a shoestring when you haven't got technical support on site. Means that people, though, now can actually apply online an expression of interest to an animal that they may or may not have seen, which gives the staff, the volunteers, an opportunity to have a look at what's the best match for that person, their lifestyle. Do they have kids? No kids? And it means that when they do actually make an appointment and they do come on site, the adoption process is more streamlined, and we find that the people who are actually submitting to adopt are really dedicated and committed to wanting to adopt, whereas sometimes we would have a lot of people on site wanting to just have a look at animals, which is fair enough and reasonable. But certainly the adoption process now being online has taken quite a bit of effort behind the scenes. And we do all of the appointments, whether that's through a reclaim now or surrenders. You know, everything is now an appointment-based approach. We will aim to keep a lot of that moving forward down the track as we sort of emerge at the other end of the current crisis, and probably have a bit of a blend about how we're providing our services as well to meet the different people's needs. As Sue mentioned, not everyone and computers, so we need to make sure that we have the appropriate reach to the appropriate members in the community who are interested in adopting.
Now, how are the animals faring? Have you got many? Are they well looked after at the moment?
Yes, I can guarantee you the animals are all extremely well looked after. The staff and the volunteers love each and every one of those animals and knows them intimately, which is really lovely. And we continue to run a really good adoption process, so we've not compromised on our adoption process. We certainly had an influx of adoptions at the beginning of the school holidays, which were brought forward. We were a little overwhelmed by the numbers of people, but on reflection, you know, given that people were not travelling interstate or moving around a lot, it made a lot of sense. And we traditionally see adoption numbers increase over school holidays. The numbers now obviously are much, much slower. So we still have about 400 or 500 animals in care, and that includes our foster program. So we have about 170 animals out in foster. They filter through into the adoption process, and then we've got the dogs and the cats on site.
Okay.
As well as, I should actually point out, as well as the rabbits and the occasional chicken and guinea pigs and things that we also get.
So the main point being that COVID hasn't had a detrimental effect on the animals being fostered and finding homes?
No, in terms of animal welfare, we're absolutely haven't compromised anywhere on that. I would say, though, that from a whole range of other perspectives, we've been quite significantly impacted just in terms of donations. So it's interesting when there is another crisis in the state or globally. Generally speaking, we feel an impact as a local charity because people divert what capacity they have to provide a donation to that particular issue. So we had already felt some impact from the bushfires, that people had redirected their opportunity to donate. We've had to cancel our major March appeal, and we are looking to probably cancel our winter tax appeal. We have launched a relief appeal now, and as I say, you know, people respond very differently. So, there's a spread about how we generate our income, and we've certainly felt it quite severely within our capacity to fundraise at the moment. And so we need to be thinking about that in the future. What else can we do to, get different income streams in?
Yeah, yeah. And Zoe, does the Barwon House Foundation have a lot of volunteers?
Yeah, we've got around 480 volunteers who help us each and every year, and that be through cooking cookies for our Anzac Day sales through to volunteering, shaking tins and everything in between. We've got this unbelievable sense of community happening at the moment, albeit quite different to what we have previously. We've launched what's called Foundation Family, and we've got hundreds of people across the community that they're volunteering their time through this online family to offer tips and tricks on how to keep healthy and well, and really focusing on social and emotional well-being during what is and can be a really isolating time.
Yeah. And are you finding that volunteers, generally speaking, volunteers are older, so that'll have an effect on how confident they are volunteering moving forward?
Surprisingly, the foundation volunteers, the average age is around 45.
Okay.
So,
which is not old at all. It's a great age.
Not old at all. And they're really fit and happy and healthy and engaged. So they're really helping us now in a different way than before, in helping us spread the health messages and the wellness messages that we're trying to get out there as, our key focus.
Yeah. Now, Sue, I know you're a big part of what Charities are doing is adapting, and we've touched on that today, but certainly your CEO Sleep Out, it's quite innovative the way you're approaching it this year. Can you give us a bit of a rundown?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we were uncertain really to start with about how to run this and go forward, but one of the things about homelessness is that it is hidden for a lot of people, and they sleep in their cars and they sleep on their couches. So we've adapted our model. It's a digital sleep out. We're asking our participants to stay at home, but sleep in their car or on a couch or in their backyard, and to connect from a digital perspective for a couple of hours to listen to speakers. And we've got Dr. Andrew Roach, who will be speaking with us, and we also will be engaging with each other in our experiences. So it won't be the same. I think that you have to adapt. You have to make it work, and I think it will. And we've got some really strong engagement already. People are really excited about doing something different. And I think you've just got to make these things work. You've got to find a way of connecting and engaging with the people that you have been regulars. Whether we'll get lots of new people, I'm hoping we will, but certainly a lot of our regulars understand that we have to do things differently, but also understand that for a significant number of women in particular, sleeping in a car is an option. It's a safer option than being on the streets, and people couch surf for years. So I think it will resonate. It'll be a bit more of a reflective time for people about, it's all right, how would this be if I had to sleep in my car for months? Or how would it be if I just went round, different people, family, friends or whatever, sleeping on my couch, and I'd have no privacy of how do I wash, shower, all of these things. So I think it will still be a real experience for people. So yeah, I think it will be good. I think it's, another example of how you have to adapt. Another thing that we're doing is we have a winter peel, a tax appeal, like most other charities. And one of the big areas for us is that we go to our parishes and we speak at masses and collect. And we're doing videos to live stream in services. So again, you've got to use that technology that's open to us. And but be conscious too, as I say, that there is a digital divide, and it's not accessible for everybody. But I think we work with where we are, and we have 12,000 volunteers. We try and communicate with them every day because I think that engagement is really important, and we're doing the same with our donors, trying to tell them a story, trying to keep them on the journey with us. So it seems to be successful. I think some of the challenges are coming down the track for organisations around sustainability. So I think it's important that we do keep talking to our donors and our volunteers about future, because I think we're in a bit of a lull at the moment, but I think, 6 months from now, we'll start to see a big difference in Australia, and the need will be huge.
Well, I think even at the moment, I remember seeing a stat saying in Geelong, 1,000 people sleep rough every night, which is extraordinary. And no doubt that's probably going to grow over the next 6, 12 or 18 months.
Look, I think it will. The government has done quite a bit of work around evictions, for example. But people that have got a long-term history of poor credit will still find it really difficult. So that's going to help. All these things help. And are very supportive of them, but you would expect that there would be an increase. And one of the things I think we've all realised is how is it when you're homeless and all of these things are going on and everybody's expected to stay at home and you actually don't have a home. And I think all of that brings it back to us about how real it must be to experience homelessness.
Pat, for people that are at home or have excess capacity, is there plenty of opportunities for volunteers to get involved at the moment for essential services such as food relief and so on?
Yeah, there are been on two fronts really, and I guess a bit of a call out to your membership base, where you have many executives and leaders in the community who may have thought over time to join the board of a not-for-profit. I think people with some time have got some management and leadership skills are very valuable to not-for-profits across Geelong, and there are hundreds of them, as we know. So if you've got time, I'd say do it. It can be very rewarding, and you can make a significant difference. In the matter of Geelong Food Relief, Ben, we've had a call out a couple of times when we've needed some people, mainly helping deliver food and maybe helping get food to people in isolation and those sorts of things. But the Geelong Food Relief Centre are really open to help in that regard. And so if anybody has got some time or want to help, just give them a ring. Just on that. There's a very exciting project happening there in food relief in Geelong with the construction of the new Geelong Food Hub in Morgan Street, North Geelong. It's going to be a really fantastic outcome for Geelong. And as we look forward over the next couple of years with the level of unemployment, I think there's going to be need for assistance in this area. So we're very lucky that all the major players and indeed all of the smaller players are coming together and are going to provide a great solution for Geelong in this area.
Excellent. And I do encourage employers who are listening, if your staff do have excess capacity as a result of the JobKeeper allowance, that is that you're still paying them and perhaps you're having significant disruption to your business and not enough work, please consider exploring any charities throughout the Geelong region and more broadly, Sue, as you know, across Victoria on how you can help. There might be opportunities there. With yourself, Zoe, is there opportunities for businesses across Geelong to be more involved with Barwon Health Foundation?
Absolutely. We've got about 1,000,005 different opportunities that we're really creating around the expertise of those that come through our email. So we're creating lots of opportunities for people with marketing skills, communication skills, strategy skills. We're using this. It certainly hasn't been a downtime by any stretch of the imagination. We've probably been busier than ever, but we're using this different time to be able to really gear up to what is our new normal within the health sector charity space, and particularly within a fundraising space. So I really appeal to any businesses out there that have an amazing skill set to give us a call and have a chat around how you think you could support your local hospital. I also want to really make the point that although we're all talking about the pandemic and COVID, people are still having strokes, people are still having heart attacks, car accidents, babies are still being born every single day. Barwon Health has been a busy health service way before the pandemic and will be way past the pandemic. So the more support that we can get from volunteers now to really enhance our local health charity, the better the health outcomes are for Geelong.
Very good. And Helen, how can the business community help GAWS throughout this time?
And there's a variety of different ways. One of them obviously is around, again, volunteering, so similar to what the others have said, but we're particularly keen to get some skilled volunteers. So we're a very flat structured organisation, and we really would appreciate some expertise in terms of corporate volunteers around IT or any of those digital areas that we are wanting to move and continue to move into and to develop. And in terms of some of that strategy work around different ideas for income streams. So there's some work there that any of the businesses can assist us with. Also, just in terms of local fundraising. So, you know, if people are doing a Zoom morning tea together, or if they're doing anything else, it would be helpful to keep us, for example, as a local charity in the forefront of your mind, and spread the word around, you know, don't forget the local charities are here and need assistance as well. So there's a mix there between becoming a corporate sponsor, for example. We have the capacity to promote organisations through our website and through our annual reports, etc. And we can also do promotions on pen. So we actually have a corporate sponsor program that varies in price from something very reasonable that you can do as an individual through to something that a bigger business can do as well. So it would be helpful if people could consider doing that, maybe even as a collective amongst colleagues to do that and pull resources in. And from our perspective, you know, becoming a regular monthly donor helps us ride through the more challenging times. So we appreciate all of the donations that we get, either in terms of blankets and towels and things for the animals, but we also really appreciate not only the one-off donations that come through and appeal, but those regular monthly donors, no matter how small they might appear to someone, you know, $10 a month or whatever they can afford to do, helps us ride through the really challenging times because it brings stability into the programs.
Well, everyone, I told you 30 minutes was going to go way too quickly, and unfortunately it has. Well, we've come to an end, but I do want to thank you for your time today. It's certainly a challenging period, and challenging beyond just the next 6 months. I think Tim Pallis yesterday said that it wasn't going to be a V-shaped recovery. It was going to take some time, and I think we could expect people to be seriously impacted, certainly for a longer period. Helen Cox, CEO of GAWS, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure, thank you.
Zoe Waters, ED of Barwon Health Foundation. Thank you, Zoe.
Take care. Thank you so much, Ben.
Sue Cattermole, the CEO of St Vincent de Paul Society of Victoria. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Ben, and thanks for the long... Vinnies will do. Thank you very much.
And Councillor Pat Murnane from Geelong Connected Communities. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Ben. Been a great pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for participating, and please get involved in your local charity any way you can during this time. Thank you.